Welcome to the 1904 Olympics, where hydration is banned, athletes run on rat poison, and the winner hitchhiked. Forget gold medals. Today we are handing out Darwin Awards to the most disastrous sporting event ever recorded. Welcome to Chaos History. St. Louis, 1904. 90 degrees, max humidity, and air thick with soot. Enter James Sullivan, a man who looked at human physiology and thought, you know what this needs? Less water. Sullivan, a believer in purposeful dehydration, decided 32 runners must run 25 miles on dirt roads with exactly one water station at mile 12, because suffering builds character, apparently. The gun fires, blasting dust into the lungs of our diverse victims. Greeks, Americans, and two Tswana tribesmen, Len Tanyane and Jan Mashiani, running barefoot and ready to regret everything immediately.
But the real enemy wasn't distance, it was automobiles.
Officials drove ahead, kicking up massive choking dust clouds. William Garcia literally started coughing up blood. Garcia collapsed with a torn esophagus and stomach lining from the dust. He was the first casualty of the dust monster. Meanwhile, the Cuban postman Andorin Carvajal arrived at the starting line wearing dress shoes and long trousers he had to cut into shorts. Carvajal had lost all his money gambling in New Orleans and hitchhiked to the race. He was starving. Halfway through the run, he saw an apple orchard. He stopped, ate some green apples, and immediately realized that was a terrible, terrible mistake.
The apples were rotten.
Carvajal, suffering from massive stomach cramps, did the only logical thing an Olympic athlete could do. He lay down on the side of the road and took a nap. The man is literally sleeping during the Olympic marathon. While the Cuban napped, South African runner Len Tanyane was having his own problems. He was running a solid race until he was chased 1 mile off course by a pack of aggressive wild dogs. This was not an organized sporting event. Let's check in on the American favorite, Fred Lorz. By mile 9, Fred decided he was done with this nonsense. He stopped running, waved down a car, and hopped in the passenger seat. He spent the next 11 miles waving at the suckers. Thomas Hicks was dying. He was 10 miles from the finish and begging to quit. His trainers, refusing to let him stop, decided to give him a little pick-me-up. They fed him a mixture of brandy and strychnine sulfate. For those of you who skipped chemistry class, strychnine is rat poison. In small doses, it is a stimulant. In large doses, it kills you. Hicks was getting small doses repeatedly. He was now hallucinating that the finish line was 20 miles away. His trainers were not done. When the rat poison didn't perk him up enough, they gave him raw egg whites and more brandy. Hicks was no longer running. He was shuffling, his face gray, his eyes rolling back in his head. This was the first recorded instance of performance-enhancing drugs in the Olympics, and they almost murdered the guy. Hicks had lost 8 pounds during the race. He was essentially a walking corpse powered by alcohol and pesticide. Lorz rode in luxury until the car broke down at mile 19. Refreshed and rested, he hopped out and thought, might as well finish. He jogged the last few miles into the stadium, looking surprisingly fresh for a man who ran a marathon. Alice Roosevelt, the president's daughter, was about to place the gold medal on his head when someone screamed, "Hey, that guy was in a Buick for an hour!" Lorz claimed it was just a practical joke. Sure, Fred, whatever you say. But while Fred was playing comedian, the real leader, Thomas Hicks, was currently undergoing a medical experiment that would be illegal in any modern jurisdiction on planet Earth. Meanwhile, the Cuban postman, Carvajal, woke up from his nap. Feeling refreshed, he started running again. He actually passed the guy who was vomiting blood and managed to finish 4th. If he hadn't eaten those apples, he might have won gold. Back to Hicks. He entered the stadium. He couldn't lift his legs. His trainers literally grabbed him by the arms and carried him, holding him in the air while he moved his feet back and forth like a cartoon character. He crossed the line and immediately collapsed. Doctors rushed in. It took 4 physicians to keep him alive. He was declared the winner while unconscious. He still had the gold medal, but he probably also had significant liver damage. So let's recap the scoreboard. The winner was on rat poison. The runner-up was a guy who drove a car. The 4th place finisher took a nap, and the 9th place finisher was chased by dogs. This was the pinnacle of athletic achievement. But wait, It gets dumber. The organizers were so proud of this disaster that they wrote a report saying the race proved that dehydration was beneficial. It took medical science decades to convince coaches that water is, in fact, good for humans. The St. Louis Marathon remains the slowest winning time in Olympic history. Hicks finished in 3 hours and 28 minutes. For context, modern marathoners finish in just over 2 hours, and they generally don't require emergency resuscitation at the finish line. Fred Lorz, the cheater, was banned for life. Just kidding, the ban was lifted a year later and he won the Boston Marathon in 1905. Apparently, it was just a prank, bro, was a valid legal defense in the early 20th century. Thomas Hicks never ran professionally again. He took his gold medal, his rat poison hangover, and retired. Probably the smartest decision anyone made that entire day. He lived to the age of 76, which is a miracle of biology. The 1904 marathon stands as a testament to human stupidity. It was a perfect storm of bad science, bad planning, and bad apples. Literally. It proves that history isn't just dates and wars. Sometimes it's just a carnival of errors. As for James Sullivan and his dehydration theory, he died in 1914. The Olympics eventually decided to provide water stations, presumably after realizing that having athletes die on live television, well, live in front of people, was bad for branding. Lynn Tonyane and Jan Mashiani, the Twana tribesmen, were the first black Africans to compete in the modern Olympics. Despite the dogs and the barefoot running, they finished 9th and 12th. They were the unsung heroes of this absolute circus. The dust that nearly killed William Garcia led to paved roads becoming a standard requirement for future marathons. So, in a way, his near-death experience paved the way for modern runners. Pun absolutely intended. You are welcome, joggers. Andarin Carvajal became a folk hero in Cuba. He continued to run, travel, and presumably eat fruit he found on the ground. He proved that you don't need expensive gear to be an Olympian. You just need legs and a nap. So the next time you watch the Olympics and see high-tech shoes and scientifically formulated energy gels, remember Thomas Hicks, remember the brandy, remember the strychnine, and remember that the bar for Olympic athlete used to be much, much lower. History is full of these moments where everything goes wrong. The 1904 marathon is the gold standard of failure. It is the Avengers Endgame of incompetence. It is a masterpiece of disaster that we should never, ever forget. If you enjoyed watching people suffer for no reason, you are in the right place. We dig up the weirdest, darkest, and dumbest moments in human history and animate them so you don't have to read books. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more chaos. Next week, we might cover a war fought over a bucket or a pope who put a dead body on trial. The past is a freak show. I'm your host, and this has been Chaos History. Stay curious, stay hydrated, and for the love of everything holy, please do not eat the apples found on the side of the road. See you next time.